Hello, what's up? Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to work on some projects and work on some crafting related goals vlog style. So here behind me I have about half of my yarn stash, and I've talked before on this channel about how having a large yarn stash kind of stresses me out, and the more yarn that I acquire and don't immediately make into projects is like, it just kind of weighs on me a little bit. And I have reflected on that a lot because I don't want my crafting to be a source of stress. I want it to be fun. And I think I've realized that it's not just having supplies that is stressful to me. The part of it I don't like is having supplies that I don't see myself ever actually using because I don't like it anymore. It's not my style. The project I originally had fell through and I don't have anything else to make with it. That sort of thing. That is the part that weighs on me. It's not the fact that I have things that I can use to make into things. It's the fact that I have some stuff that I don't like. And the solution to that is, of course, to clear out some things. So I'm going to go through all of my yarn. I have these two cubbies, I have another like tote to go through, and then I think I have yarn just like stashed in a couple different places in this room. So I'm gonna pull it all out. We're gonna go through it and figure out what I no longer want and what I want to keep. Here's what I have. So I know that this yarn is currently in a project, and then I have, for like most of this yarn, I have upcoming projects planned. So I'm not gonna go through too much of this cubby. This one has a lot of deep stash. So I'm going to start assessing and pulling skeins out. This is the other part of my yarn stash. This is really like the less aesthetic yarn, or the yarn that's not in hanks and it doesn't look as nice on a shelf. So I just have it organized in these bags by weight for the most part. I think I also have it organized by sock yarn. I think this bag is sock yarn. So I'm gonna start going through this and I'll let you know what I have. Alright, so here's what we're dealing with so far. I pulled quite a few of these skeins from the shelves, and I also found some other yarn that I've had forever. In fact, most of this I've had for probably somewhere between 6 to 7 years, and so the fact that I haven't used it at this point probably means I won't use it. Alright, making progress. I feel really good about where I'm at so far. Now I'm going to spend some time going through this. I think I'm going to keep most of it, but the majority of it is either sock yarn or partial skeins. So whatever partial skeins I decide to get rid of, I'm just going to separate from the rest of those full skeins, and that way I can deal with them differently. I'm not going to like try to sell my scraps. So I'm going to spend some time going through this. By the way, if you can't tell already, I'm kind of in the middle of like dismantling this room and moving a bunch of stuff around, and so there are just like boxes and random shit in the background. Please just ignore it. I'm gonna start with this bag. This is my sock yarn bag. First up, I have all of this patent croy from forever ago, like when I first started knitting. And I'm just gonna keep this. This is great sock yarn. It's very sturdy, and I'm sure I can make socks out of all of this yarn. I also have some Drops Fable in a few different colorways, including some partial skeins that I've used in various projects. I am likely going to keep all of this as well. Again, this is just like a nice sturdy sock yarn, and I like these colors enough that I'll probably make socks out of it. This is 2 skeins of Knit Picks Felici. This is some pretty old Felici. I haven't tried their new stuff. I think it might be different, but I'm going to keep this. More just like random skeins. I have this Knit Pick Stroll This is a neutral enough color that I can definitely use this in contrast socks. So I'm gonna keep this one. I also found this Premier yarns, which I know I got from Joann's. I don't know if they still sell it. It's like some of the only commercial sock weight yarn that I could find in the big craft stores at the time. This is the Deborah Norville collection. I don't know who this is. Probably somebody famous. I did knit a pair of socks out of this yarn already, so I think I'm going to pass this along as well. This is a fun little time capsule. This is my Zauberball yarn, and I bought them all at very different times, and they all have their original price tags on them. So this one I know that I bought in 2017. It was $24. This one I got from a friend in, I believe, 2019, so it's $26.98. And then this one I picked up, you can see, in August of 2022 from my local yarn store, and this one's $28.75. So this is all of my like luxury sock yarn. I've actually never knit with this before. I bought this and I was too scared to use it because it was so beautiful. I think I had like a rule for myself where I needed to knit through all of my like cheaper stuff before I could use this, but clearly that's not really helping me out so far. So I'm just going to cast this on whenever I feel like it. Recently I've gotten into this habit of gathering the yarn that I have left over from a single project and putting it all into the same bag, often with the swatch, as you can tell. And so I have a few of these bags. This one's even labeled with exactly what it is so I don't forget. I think it's in my best interest to keep all of this because then I can use it to repair those sweaters if I need to. But this one, there's obviously a lot of leftovers and I don't feel like I'm going to use all of this in another project. This is sort of like the knitter's conundrum because I don't want to get rid of it. I think I would regret it. I've done that before and I have regretted it, but I also don't really know what to do with this. I have found my bag of leftovers. Everything in this bag, except for this single skein of mohair for some reason, is a partial skein, I think all of which I've used in projects in the past. I feel a little bit conflicted getting rid of any of this, again, in case I need it to mend projects in the future, but I think some of this I know I just won't use. Like this skein of Malabrigo, this was from one of my very first sweaters I ever knit, and I never wear that, so I don't need to mend it. But it feels like kind of sentimental, I guess. And so I feel a little bit bad getting rid of it. I don't know. What do you do with your leftover yarn from like your very first projects? A lot of this is just pretty small scraps. I do have a scrap bin. It's actually right there. But I think I just constituted these as all too big of a skein to count it as a scrap, but you know, it's actually not that much yarn. Ooh, this I can get rid of. I received both of these as partial skeins from somebody's D-stash. They were giving it to me for free, which was nice. I think I used these in a couple projects actually, so I feel good about passing these on. For some reason I have just like a bunch of yarn tags in the bottom of this bag, so these can be recycled. This one I also got for free from someone just clearing out their stash, and I already used this in a pair of socks, so I'm gonna get rid of that. The rest of this is just yarn from other projects that I'm going to keep. Aha, okay, I figured this out. I do have another skein of that mohair, and I believe it went with this palette. This was supposed to be together. All right, this bag is a little bit smaller, and I feel good about everything I'm keeping. This next bag is overflowing, and this is my worsted weight scraps mostly. There might be some full skeins in here. So right on top, I have these two leftover skeins from a baby sweater that I knit. This yarn is from Michaels and it's like a cotton blend, and there's not a whole lot of it, but I think it would make good like dishcloths, maybe hot pads actually, since it's so soft, but I don't really make that. I think I kept it, you know, just in case I wanted to make something like that, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. This skein is coming apart, but this is actually two full skeins of Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock worsted. I was going to knit somebody a hat out of this, and I do have the yarn label inside. So this could be on my shelves. It's just already skeined up, but I'm definitely keeping this. Another conflicting find, this is some Peace Fleece Sport, I think, or DK. Left over from a project from that sweater right there, and I think I have more of this. I don't want to get rid of it, but I also, like, I don't have another project for this. Like, I don't think I will make something else out of this. Got more leftovers from recent projects, so I'm gonna keep this. Anything that is from the past like year or two, I'm probably gonna keep. Again, some more DK weight leftovers that I'm sure I can find to put in some project at some point. The last bag I have is this black and white bag for some reason. I think I just ran out of space and it kind of happened this way. But yeah, I've got some Valley yarns in here. I've got some Cascade 220, also some Let Lopi leftovers. Again, this is leftovers from a sweater. I'll probably keep all of this because I can find some use for it at some point. Like I figured I would, I kept most of this, but there's definitely some more room in here now. The last bit of yarn I found is in this basket. This is pretty new yarn. I picked up this Cascade Yarns Eco Plus Merino for a specific project last summer, and so I still want to make that project. Just takes up a lot of space. This I also got fairly recently. I haven't exactly decided what to do with it yet, but I'm definitely going to keep it. And then all of this is some Valley yarns that I started a sweater with and it didn't work out. So I do have a sweater quantity of it, but I'm not super into this gray. I don't want to just get rid of stuff because of like the way that I'm feeling in the moment. But how I'm feeling right now is that I'm going to stash this away and probably not think about it for a while, but it is such a neutral color that I don't think I'm going to get rid of it right away. Here's what I'm going to destash. Pretty good. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to get rid of it yet. All of the scraps and sock yarn I'm going to donate. We have a crafting reuse store that will let school kids come in and they'll give them a bunch of craft supplies for free. And so I know that I want to donate this yarn there. I might try to sell some of the hand-dyed skeins, but we'll see how lazy I am. I might just end up donating all of it. It's evening time now, and the other project that I wanted to work on is finishing my granny square cardigan that I'm crocheting. I've made 33 granny squares and I need to make 46, so I've got 13 more to go. And I've also started a few of the triangles or half squares. I think I need 18 of those, so I've got quite a few more of those to go. I've been keeping all of my yarn and everything I need in this bin, so I've just been taking it around and working on these squares whenever I have a moment. And if you missed my last video where I talked about the cardigan and the inspiration and what I'm doing, I will be bordering all of the granny squares and knitting the hems and the cuffs out of black yarn. I think I can get 13 more squares done this weekend. I don't know if I can get all of the half squares done, but I would like to start assembling all of the granny squares together this weekend. It's Saturday night and I do have quite a few non-crafting things that I need to get done tomorrow, so we'll see how much I can actually do. But I'm going to try to devote most of my free time to working on this. So I'm going to take my stuff with me, move over to the couch, and get to crocheting. It's the next day. I thought I would wake up with a bunch of motivation to work on all of my projects, and I ended up not feeling great today. So I've kind of done the bare minimum of just getting all of whatever's necessary done today. But I did work on a few more granny squares. I completed 9 more, so I only have 4 more to go. I worked on a few last night and a few this morning. I also decided to time myself. When I first started making these, I timed how long it took me to make one. It took me 21.5 minutes per square, And so I retimed myself. I was just curious if I had gotten any faster, and I was astonished that I am saving over 5 minutes per square. It now takes me 16 minutes and 5 seconds to make a single square. I think it really comes down to the way that I'm weaving my ends in. Sorry for the background noise. I got way more efficient weaving my ends in, so I'm able to work them a lot faster. If I focus on this project tonight, I think I can get all of the squares finished, but I don't think I'm gonna get started on assembling them today. Here's what I have. It looks like a lot. It's a lot. I've also been keeping all of my ends, and out of curiosity, I'm going to weigh them. 15 grams, 14, somewhere around 14 or 15 grams. Today we have been prepping for some drywall to be installed starting tomorrow. So there's gonna be a lot of work and noise and stuff going on this week. It's gonna be a busy week. So I'm not sure how much I'll actually be able to vlog. I might have to wait until next weekend, but that's just my life right now. Tonight I am going to grill some teriyaki chicken and make a stir fry, so I'm gonna go get that marinating now. And then later tonight I might finish watching the episode of Shogun that I started watching last night. It's really good so far. I'm gonna sign off before it gets any louder and I'll talk to you later. It is Sunday again. Don't talk to me about my bangs. I am growing them out. The drywalling has gone very well, but it is taking a little longer than we expected, so they are going to come back next week. That's just the way these things go. Also, I did end up selling all of the full skeins of the yarn that I destashed, so that felt really good to get that out of my house, and I was able to recoup a little bit of my costs. I did sell it for really cheap, just to get rid of it. Update on the granny square cardigan. I finished all of the granny squares and I started assembling this week. I am really close to being done with assembling. I've got a few more squares to add in. Overall, it's gone pretty okay, but I do have some notes on the pattern. And it's a good thing this pattern is free because I can really talk about it. So the assembling section of the pattern is split into tiers. So you've got like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and the written instructions are accompanied by a full schematic that show the right front, the left front, and the back. The schematic is really the MVP of this whole pattern for me. I referenced it a lot. Also, when I got to tier 5, that is when things got really confusing for me. So up to tier 5, I think it was pretty straightforward. So here's where I'm at with the whole thing. This is it laid out with the fronts folded, so you can see the sleeve construction. Once you get to tier 5, that is when you start assembling the squares to shape the sleeves. I found it really helpful to lay the full thing out on my desk and work on it on a flat surface so that I could compare what I'm currently working on to the schematic. That really helped me understand what all of the squares were doing. There's also a note in this schematic that the dotted line indicates that the granny square is folded, and so you see the right side on both the front and the back. That's also like a key to understanding, you know, where you're supposed to fold the garment. Another thing that confused me, which isn't something I think will confuse everyone, it's something that I know that I struggle with personally, is that the schematic is shown as you're looking at the garment being worn, not as if you are wearing it. So if you look at the schematic, the right front is on the left and the left front is on the right. And I really struggle to visually flip things in my mind. So as I'm looking at the back, I kept having to reference the numbers of the squares in order to figure out which side was the right and which side was the left. Because again, you're looking at it as if somebody is wearing it. And it's not that that doesn't make sense, because you're always going to be, like, the schematic is referencing everything as seen on the right side, which is helpful because when you start folding the garment, you need to know which direction, right side or wrong side, you should attach the square. So once I kind of wrapped my head around all of that, it started to make a lot more sense. And one thing I did to help myself understand it is I took a picture of what I had, both the front and the back, and I numbered each of my squares to match the schematic. And this was helpful because all of my granny square colors are unique, and so I could look at the photo, reference back, you know, which granny square is which number based on the colors, and then that's really when I started to understand how to assemble the sleeves. It's a little bit confusing, and again, I don't think the instructions cover everything. Especially the corners. Possible I just wasn't understanding it, but once I got to like the corners, as written, it seemed like the pattern was telling you to leave like huge gaps, and I didn't like that. So I kind of did my own thing and just like slip stitched wherever I felt like I needed to. I also wanted to mention that I did see several people on Ravelry talking about the weird gauge. Just that it's a hard gauge to get with a DK weight or a worsted weight yarn. Like, I got the gauge with a fingering weight yarn. Against my better judgment, I do keep thinking that I would like to make another one of these. Like, it's pretty satisfying to put it together and watch it turn into a garment. Like, the construction of this is very cool and it's fun to work on. So I want to make another one. I'd like to make more of a monochrome one next time, just because this one is so colorful. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I actually think I can probably finish assembling today, and then I get to start knitting on it next week. Okay, excuse the pajamas, but here it is, tried on before any of the knitted parts. So I've got everything assembled except for one last triangle there at the back, but otherwise it is all complete. At this stage, I am feeling like I have no idea what the hell I made. I am not feeling super confident about it, but I am deciding to press on and stick with it and see how it all comes together. So I'm now picking up stitches to do the knitted finishings. I'm currently working on the hem, so this is the bottom of the sweater. So the pattern doesn't tell you how to pick up the stitches, it just says how many to pick up per triangle. So you start over here at this quarter square and you pick up 14 stitches, and then on the bottom edge you're dealing with all of these triangles, and each triangle you want to pick up 26 stitches. So here's the way that I am doing that to make sure that the stitches are distributed evenly across the edge. So you start at the corner of one of the triangles, and I'm going to pick up 2 stitches per round or per double crochet cluster. So the first stitch I'm going to pick up in this chain 3 space. It's a fairly open space. You'll just put your needle in, pick up a stitch. For the second stitch, I'm going to go into the base of that first double crochet. So right along the edge here, just go into what looks like a good spot and pick up a stitch. And then we're going to repeat that across until we get to the center cluster. So we go into the chain 3 space and then go into the base of that double crochet. There's not like a great way to make this look really good. I think it's mostly a matter of just making sure that you like the look that you're getting, and you don't want to split the yarn. Okay, now that we've made it to that middle cluster, we're going to go into the chain 3 space, go into the base of the double crochet like we've been doing, and then go into that center stitch, the one that all of the double crochets are coming out of. So that's an additional pickup that we're adding. And now we can go back to 2 stitches per cluster. So we go into the base and then go into the chain 3 space. You repeat that across until you get to the border section at the corner. Now that we're at the corners, I'm going to go into the first chain 3 space of the first border cluster. Then I'm going to go into this chain space in between this cluster and the center cluster. Next, I'm going to go into that very center slip stitch, and then I'm going to repeat. So I'm going to go into this big open chain space, and then I'll go into that last chain 3 space. And if you count your stitches from the edge of this triangle to the edge of this border, you should have 26 stitches. So if you repeat that around, you should end up with the right amount of stitches per the pattern. So now I'm just going to continue picking up stitches for the rest of the hem, and then I'll start knitting 2x2 ribbing. Okay, I'm about 1.5 inches in, and I would say that overall it's looking pretty good. The ratio of stitches and the gauge that I'm getting in my hem is working well with the cardigan, and the distribution of stitches is also working out well. It is now Tuesday. I didn't really recap what we did over the weekend. I didn't do any crafting over the weekend. We spent literally Saturday and Sunday painting and finishing some stuff with the drywall and taking care of our yard. So I didn't do any crafting, but yesterday I was able to start the bottom hem, as you saw. So I started the knitting on my cardigan, and tonight I'm hoping I can get a little bit more done on that. Now I'm going to start packing up this mess of a box. It started out so neat and organized and turned into this. So I'm just going to start packaging this up in this Ziploc bag so they're all together, but I don't need them anymore for this project. The doubling up for the knitted parts is going well. I definitely think it was necessary. I don't think a single strand in a knitted fabric would match the density of the crochet. So yeah, that's going well. I did run into some issues with the very end of assembling because I did one of the sleeves wrong. And I think that's just part of this pattern. Like, it is a little confusing. Okay, this is all packed away, box is empty. I also today, this morning, started a new audiobook while I was getting ready. It's called Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. It's sort of like a horror thriller. It's about this woman whose dad is a serial killer and her mom is now dying. So she moves back in with her mom to try to help her. There's all these bad memories attached to her childhood home, and there's also someone living with them that she doesn't know, and apparently it gets really spooky and there's weird things that happen. So I'm only like 8% in, just about an hour in. And it's interesting so far. It's pretty slow start. Also, I got this in the mail today, so I'm going to open that up. I finally decided to get a utility slash craft cart, so I'm going to build that now. So the purpose of my new cart is to hold my e-spinners and all of my spinning accessories. I'm about to start a big spinning project as soon as my fiber arrives, and I wanted to be able to transport everything I need from room to room and sort of around the room, just so that I can have a spot to put things. I previously had stuff kind of stashed in different baskets, and when I'm like in the middle of a spinning project, I tend to just take over the living room where we eat on our coffee table, and that is just kind of annoying to have to take down my setup every time I want to spin. So I just decided to get this little cart. I think the green color is cute, and I can put this little tabletop on it and use it as additional table space. I think it's pretty decent. I've got my electric eel wheels down here. I'm really excited to get back into spinning. It's been a minute. I'm kind of laughing at myself because these were popular years and years ago. They were such a big thing like on Pinterest when that was like huge, and I'm just now finally buying one, but I think it's going to serve its purpose pretty well. I just moved my Lazy Kate down here, and it does fit in that bottom one, so I think this is a better configuration so I can keep everything in it and also put the top on. It is now Saturday. I cleaned my house, I got a bunch of chores done, I went on a 2-mile run, did some meal prepping, and I've also been working on my cardigan. I finished the bottom hem. It needs to be blocked, it's kind of scrunching up, but that's finished. And then I picked up for one of the cuffs and finished that. So the next thing I need to do is pick up the other cuff. These arms look so big, by the way, because they are pretty large. And then I need to pick up the button band all the way around. I might be able to get that done today. Every time I've said that, working on this thing, I have not completed it in the day that I said I was going to, but that's because a bunch of other things have been coming up throughout this week and weekend. This was not the best time to start a vlog. Note to self, there was a lot going on the past 2 weeks, so I haven't been able to like update you regularly, but anyway, I might be able to get it done. I think the rest of the day is just gonna be me chilling out on the couch, hanging out with my cats, and I'm alone tonight, so I might order a pizza later, and yeah, basically I don't have anything else to do today. Got everything done, so that feels good. I also finished my book, Just Like Home. It was okay. I think I gave it around 3.5 stars. We got a lot more information about like who the main character is and her relationship with her parents. She was kind of estranged from both. Of course, her dad being a serial killer, she like didn't talk to him anymore, but that was kind of something that was like controlled by her mom, who was a pretty shitty mom. Her dad was actually like a good dad to her. So it was kind of exploring like the theme of like loving someone who is really terrible and then also like being loved by them. You know, I kind of wanted it to touch more on that because I felt like it didn't fully cover that. It just kind of introduced it. The ending was kind of weird. It got a little bit like paranormal. So I don't really like paranormal thrillers and horrors, and generally if it goes that route, I like to interpret it as the main character, like the characters are experiencing it, but it's not actually happening in reality. And in that way, it kind of reminded me of the book Bunny by Mona Awad, because you don't really know if the main character is a reliable narrator, and so you're kind of guessing at what's actually going on the whole time. It held my interest for most of the book. I was deep cleaning, like vigorously cleaning every corner of my house for like 8 hours, and so I just listened to it the entire time. And I wouldn't say that I was like super invested in really any of the characters, but you know, it had some fascinating parts. The next book that came in on my holds is The Measure. It is a dystopian science fiction, I think. It's about this world in which everyone at some point receives a letter telling them how many years they have left to live. I've heard good things about it. It's pretty popular right now, so I'm excited to start that. And I'm going to next pick up the next cuff for my sleeve. Oh, I did want to show you this footage I got of it on. I was a little bit worried before I put the knitted trims on. It is very large, and I'll talk a little bit more about the fit and my reflection on that later, but it's large. It fits me, I think, but it's definitely got that oversized vibe. But the knitted parts definitely like tie it all together. I'm just gonna keep working on it, and I'll update you as I make progress, and I think I'm gonna make it a goal to try to get this done today. It's a lot of knitting, but like I said, I don't really have anything else to do today. One of those rare Saturday afternoons where I can just sit on the couch and knit, and I'm so excited. So it's been about an hour since I last checked in. I am almost done with the sleeve cuff, but I'm actually gonna move outside because it is beautiful out there, and we just finished our patio and I really wanna use it. So I'm gonna go pour myself an iced coffee and go sit out there, knit, and start my book. Oh, this lighting is terrible. Let me see if I can find some better lighting. So as you saw, I got a pizza and I watched The Martian. It was good. I read Project Hail Mary like a couple summers ago and I hated it. I didn't think it was very well written, and I wanted it to dive much deeper into the linguistics aspect. Like that was the part that I was the most interested in, and it just really disappointed me. But I love a good space story, and I decided to watch The Martian. I didn't know that Donald Glover was in it, so that was a nice surprise. It did have a lot of the Andy Weir humor in it that I don't really jive with, but overall it's a good movie. I'm about to enjoy a delicious slice of banana bread, and I am so close to being done with my cardigan. It's kind of a big blob at this point. It's really starting to hurt my wrist because of the weight, but I have 2 rows to go to finish the button band. I finished the buttonholes, so I just need to do 2 more rows and then I can bind off and it's done. So I'm gonna finish that up tonight. I do want to block it before I weave in the ends to have the ends still accessible, so that'll make that easier. Yeah, so I'm gonna try it on once I finish the button band. I hope it's good. We'll just have to see. It's the next day. My newly cleaned out yarn stash is looking good. As you saw, I blocked my cardigan this morning. I tried it on before I blocked it and it's looking really good. I was pretty sure it was going to be a big flop, but the knit edges and trimmings like really pulled it all together and it actually fits great. So we'll see after it blocks how it does, but I am now stoked about it. I stayed up way too late last night watching Coachella so that I could watch Tyler the Creator's live show, and it was immaculate. So I'm a little tired today, but we are pressing on. Update on the measure. I got 17% of the way through the audiobook yesterday, and I was wrong about the premise. I like to go into books not knowing a whole lot about them. So they don't receive a letter giving them how many years they have left to live. It's actually more compelling than that. They receive a box with a string in it, and everyone's string is a different length. Nobody knew what this meant, but like everyone in this society got a box, and all of the like different government bodies came together and determined that it was legitimate. There are many different types of groups commentating on the implication of what this means. There are of course religious groups. There are scientists who have used like data sets of the length of everyone's string and taken like the longest string and measured that against like the longest human life to kind of figure out what the string length means, and they have been able to determine how long everyone is going to live down to like a 2-year margin of error. So you can find out that information if you want to. So the string length is not measuring how much left you have to live, it's actually representing like your total lifespan. We are following multiple point of views. There's a couple in which one of them has a normal lifespan length of string and the other one has a shortened length of string and only has about 10 years left to live. We're following a man who also has a short string and is sort of coping with that on his own. There's another woman who's the sister of the couple who doesn't want to open her box at all. So we're following different people who are all kind of interconnected in this world. There is world building and setting up the premise, and we are finding everything out at the same time as the characters. And we're sort of building all of the infrastructure around this event and watching this world, this society figure out, you know, how to move forward after something this massive and life-changing has occurred. So there are different support groups set up, and we're watching like hospitals and ERs try to figure out how to respond, since there are so many people coming into ERs who have short strings but they don't have any symptoms, and so they're kind of panicking like, I'm going to die soon, but healthcare professionals aren't able to do anything about it yet, at least. It's kind of reminding me a little bit of the beginning of COVID, just because this is like a large worldwide event that is fully unprecedented and nobody exactly knows what to do about it at first. It's giving me a little bit of anxiety just because of that, but I think I'm gonna be fine to keep listening to it, and I'm definitely intrigued. So now that my cardigan is blocking, I need to figure out what I'm going to work on next. I'm currently working on a sweater that is, I would say, like maybe 65% of the way done, and I'm filming a progress vlog on that, so you'll see that coming next. So I might work on that. Now that I have my spinning cart set up, I am tempted to spin this bag of nest fiber. It is so colorful and beautiful, and I have a project in mind but I'm waiting to receive some other fiber for my combo spin. That's taking a little longer than I expected, but I know that it's going to be coming soon, and so I don't know if I want to start a project and then have that come in the mail and want to start that but have this other project to finish. I'm in this mindset of finishing things and clearing out my needles to get ready for summer knitting. Now that we are over a quarter into 2024, I want to do a little goals update. I started the year with some specific goals, and some of them I haven't gotten started on and I haven't completed, but I did complete one goal of crocheting a garment because I just got that off the needles and off the hook, so that's exciting. Another goal I have is to finish pitch this year, so maybe I'll pull that out and get a little bit of progress made on that today. I do need to finish the back, so that would be a good milestone to hit. I also have knit with hand spun, which is something that I'm currently doing. I'm working on a pair of socks and a Musselburgh hat, so I might also work on that today. Wow, I have so many things I could work on. Another goal I have is to finish my craft room, which I would say I'm on track for. I did a couple different things throughout this vlog, clearing out my yarn stash and setting up an organization system for my e-spinners. So I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at. I also have some upcoming plans that will progress that goal forward. So I would say that I'm on track for that one, but I think it's gonna be like a year-long endeavor. Another goal I have is to knit with linen this summer, and I just ordered some yarn to start my summer project, so I'll talk about that here soon. I'm gonna go make some lunch and go on a walk and listen to my books some more, and then I think I'll pull out pitch and get some knitting in on that while I watch some YouTube. So I'm working on the back of my pitch cardigan, and I've worked the armhole and I've made it to the point where it's time to shape the shoulders. And this pattern calls for a sloped bind off to shape the shoulders. Most of the time when a pattern calls for that technique, I substitute it for short row shaping instead. It ends up looking a lot neater and I think is just easier to do. So I'm working the last wrong side row before I start the shaping. So I would start the shaping on the following right side row. But instead what I'm gonna do is work across the row until, sorry, that's my cat, until however many stitches it says to bind off at the start of the next row. So for example, if it says to bind off 5 stitches at the start of the next right side row, on my wrong side row I will work across until I have 5 stitches, and then I'll do a turn. I'm gonna use German short rows, and I will repeat that following the pattern and just leaving however many stitches in between the turns that the pattern says to bind off. Okay, here is the finished shoulder shaping. I just left the stitches live and put them on some waste yarn, and I will 3 needle bind off those with the fronts. On the final bind off row for each side, I worked across the entire row and I resolved all of my double stitches just to make that easier to graft later. This marker is where I started today, so I got that much done in probably about an hour of knitting, and the back is done. Here is the full thing. It is pretty massive. I am so excited to block this. It's been on my needles for a long time now. Probably, I think I cast it on somewhere around September. Yeah, excited to have this done. I wasn't really expecting to get that done today, but I just kind of powered through. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot to do. All right, let's get to blocking. The final weight of the sweater is 410 grams. Here are some final shots of the cardigan off the blocking mats. It turned out really well. I am so happy with it. I think it's so cute. The fit ended up being pretty good. It's obviously oversized, but I think the style works, and I think it looks intentionally oversized. I like the length, I like the fit of the shoulders. I did my best to place the granny squares randomly. There are a couple spots where the colors repeat a little bit more than I wanted them to, but I think that's just how it goes with doing this for the first time and not really understanding the construction fully until I was like practically done with it. So I think if I were to do this again, I could do a better job with the color management, but I am not upset by it at all. I am actually really proud of this and I can't wait to wear it. I am stoked with how this turned out. As soon as I got all the granny squares assembled, I was like low-key freaking out that this wasn't gonna be good at all. I thought it was actually gonna be like majorly ugly. You know, the point is to be a little bit kind of ugly cute because it's just that like retro style. Like I kind of want to look like I'm wearing a blanket, right? But like I still wanted it to be cute and it was just the ugly part. I hesitate to recommend this pattern because it is such a journey and like a mountain. There are only 2 sizes. I also would love to figure out like a cropped version of this cardigan, and if I do make another one, I'll probably experiment with like some different style granny squares. I'm really glad I made it. It's definitely a look, and I don't know if I'm always gonna be in the mood for this look, but if I want to give the vibe of art student, I've got the perfect piece. I also wanted to give an update on the measure. I got about 60% of the way through and decided to DNF it. There's nothing wrong with the book. Like if you like it, you know, you don't have bad taste or anything. I think it is like objectively a decent book. It's definitely not science fiction. I realized pretty quickly in that it is speculative fiction, which is something that I think I just don't enjoy as much as I do like science fiction, especially with this type of premise. It really took me back to COVID, and I think that's kind of the biggest reason I decided not to finish it is like I was getting a little bit stressed. Thankfully, I was priming drywall for like the majority of listening to it, so I was able to like physically get the stress out, but I think it just wasn't worth going through that for me. It covers a lot of questions that you might have about how this type of event would influence and change the world. Like it covers healthcare, politics, relationships, some race issues, privilege, equality, social status, a lot of different social justice issues, the military. It touches on ways that our systems are sort of primed to take advantage of people, to segregate people to other people. And there's definitely a discussion about like disability and terminal illness and the ways that we treat those people, and often treat those people as if they're not really living a full life. It touches on discrimination in healthcare, especially for people of color, especially for Black women. But I think the fact that it only like touches on all of these issues is why I got kind of bored with it. It's very like tell, don't show. Like it tells you about all of these different scenarios that could happen, and it lays out the ways in which the world would change if something like this happened. And I think like it's just too realistic. Plus the presidential campaign going on in the book, it's just way too stressful for me. I'm definitely interested in this premise. I think the style just wasn't for me, and that's perfectly fine. Plus the short string, long string concept got a little confusing to me because let's say you're like 75 and you only have a few years left in your life, your string's gonna be long, right? Because you've lived a long life. I think it just wasn't for me. But anyway, I'm gonna end the vlog here. Thanks for hanging out with me as I finished my cardigan, and I'll see you in the next one.